What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast, but it is a very, very special episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast. Yes, reunited, and it feels so good. Kyle Draper, who is actually in Boston for tonight's Celtics Kings game. Drapes, what is up?
Hey, man, just hoping for a Kings win tonight. Hey, Forsberg, let's not forget. Sacramento swept Boston last year, so we're the team to beat tonight. If I'm Vegas, I'm putting my money on the Kings, right?
Well, I mean, based on the Celtics' performance and their uneven ways, it's not the worst thing to bet against them and going against a kind of middling opponent. But I need everybody to stick around for the end of this episode. Before we started taping this actual start of the podcast, Tom Curran and Phil Perry were wrapping up the Patriots Talk Podcast. Phil was very quick with his Marcus Smart slander and ducked out before we could hit the record button, but there's a little spice at the end here where Tom Curran tries to make a pitch to trade a particular Celtic star, and if you're familiar with our network, you can probably guess what that is. But Drape held him to some accountability. So Drapes, before we get into all the basketball stuff, I mean, people miss you. How's it going out there?
Dude, it's going fantastic, man. I'm having a blast. Obviously I want the team to be better on the floor, when it comes to wins and losses, but I'm California living, man. I came back to Boston and it's 20-something degrees out. And I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? But no, things are going well out there out on the West Coast.
Every time I see a big time Kings game winner on some of the national networks and the little voice pop, it's Kyle Draper bringing me.
Boy,
how's it been going? Because and just to take people behind the scenes, like with anything, you need reps and you need to do it more and you grow and you develop. What's it been like now that you've had some time to build up those good habits to go to an all-star level with the Kings?
Right. It's like being a basketball player. You come into the NBA, your rookie year, you're trying to feel your way, and then you make that leap from year one to year two. And so I'm much more comfortable. I know the guys, last year, I hate to say it was sort of a throwaway year almost because of COVID. I never got to touch the guys, be around the players. And now, it's interesting because when you call games, you got to be prepared for anything, right? And I'm prepared for game winners now, and so early on when I just started, it was like, man, what do I say? But now, I got my thing that I do, and so one thing I just, last year, Chris, I said to myself, you know what, Kyle, just be yourself. Just be Drapes, you know what I mean? And then whatever else happens. And so I think when people watch, that's what they see. They just see me out there having fun, enjoying basketball.
I think that's the best advice for pretty much anyone in our business is, and even as I was trying to do more TV, I didn't know how to do it. And I think the easiest thing is to just be yourself, be a nerd, be a Robert Williams fan, just kind of own what you own away from the camera, because then it's easy. You're just being yourself. But, even Mike Gorman comes on and one of the things he said is for years, he would play it very straight in terms of, just calling the game and doing what he does. But the last few years, even he's tried to sort of just, if it's on his mind, he's going to say it. He doesn't overthink it anymore. And I mean, we got a legend, 40 years in the business, who's still finding ways to evolve. So what do you got going on for catchphrase out there? Are we still doing bang, bang, bang?
Not as much. It depends. It's a feeling, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I throw out a couple occasional bang, bang, bangs that, I don't even have one thing I say. It's just whatever I'm feeling at the time. You know what I mean? One thing, people say about me, because we have that camera that videotapes you, records you. So I'm rarely just sitting down an entire game. If a big three is made or a dunk, and if you're at the game tonight, fans will see it. I'm up out of my chair like a fan. And so it's not necessarily a catchphrase. It's just whatever's on, comes to mind. Like you said, Mike, you just say it, man. Don't hold back. Just be authentic.
Give me the last thing. I'm fascinated by it. I think people are too. What has been your biggest development? What have you learned now that you've had more time? So with Gorman, now that I hyper focus on how Mike does his job, I'm always amazed at how much space he leaves, right? He'll a lot of times, and especially if you've done radio in the past, it's you got to describe everything. But Mike will just be takes a three and then just lays out. Even if he misses, whatever. It's just and sometimes I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that's really neat. How have you grown on that end?
And everybody's different when it comes to that, because some guys just talk. And Gorman, I would say he's on that opposite end of the scale. He lets it breathe. And so I think that's probably been the biggest challenge is knowing when to let the game breathe, like especially, late in games and you hear the crowd chanting defense or something, you got to lay out. Don't talk, just let the environment, tell the story. Let the crowd, the squeaking of the sneakers, and so just sensing when to shut up, it's okay, especially on TV. Like you said, radio, you got to constantly talk. TV, you got the pictures there, so you don't have to describe every single move, every single play.
Wow, that's great. Well, I can't wait. I can't cheat on my own broadcast tonight, but I might have to pull up the
second
Sacramento
screen,
feed.
right? Yeah.
We'll have it going. I'll have like one ear speaker on one side with you, one on the other with Scal and Mike, and it'll be fun. What's it been like being back in Boston? Have you been able to do anything fun?
It's been crazy, man. I got back Sunday late afternoon, and I just been running ever since, man. Seeing people. I got the wife and kids out here too. They're out here for the week, so we're doing stuff. It's just been, and so now I'm preparing for this game tonight. And I was telling somebody earlier, I'm like, as much as I am excited about this game, Chris, I can't wait for it to be over, man. Because I need to exhale, man. I need to decompress. I'm telling you, I've just been running around, having dinner with people, lunch, visiting all my old places, doing some clothing, picking up some new threads and everything, so it's just such a short time, man. We're only here for 48 hours and I was here for 11 and a half years, and, you try to see people, and it's just been tough.
I can't wait you're going to have a blast tonight. I know you got to do your job. You got to be focused on that. But when you see those people and they see you inside that building, it's going to be great. And it is kind of like when a player comes back, it's just, there's something a little bit magical to it. And I have a feeling we'll be shoehorning you on our air at some point. So if you keep a lookout for Drapes out there and go remind him of how much we enjoyed his time here. Let's switch it over to basketball. All right.
Let's talk.
I need the West Coast view of what's going on with the Boston Celtics. From afar, are you surprised that they've struggled as much as they have? And can you put your finger on why it has gone so awry?
Yeah, I am surprised because they have too much talent. And you can say the same thing about Sacramento. They've struggled. They shouldn't be where they are. They're a little better than their record indicates. Sure. I would say the same thing about the Celtics. And so, when you look at the most disappointing teams in the league, and there's a lot of them this year, right? There's a lot, whether you're talking New York, Atlanta, Lakers, obviously. I got to throw the Boston Celtics in there as well. There's no reason this team should be number 8, a couple weeks ago, 10th in the East. Like, that's unfathomable, when you got 2 young stars in JB and Jason Tatum. But I will say this. All this chatter about those guys not being able to play together and all this, that's hogwash, man. That's, what, I don't buy that, because we've seen them get to the Eastern Conference Finals together, so we've seen them complement each other. I just think the roster needs to be improved. Like, and I said it with Tommy Curran, before we really jumped on here, like the point guards that they've had in the past, whether it's Kyrie or Kemba, they've been scoring first point guards, Look at a guy like Chris Paul, and we know he's a Hall of Famer, one of the all-time great leaders. But Phoenix wasn't Phoenix until you got a guy like Chris Paul. And now Devin Booker is being talked about as the next Kobe and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You look at, some of the other teams around the league, and you need that point guard, that floor general, that leader, that culture builder. And so I wonder, if I'm looking at the Celtics, what's their identity? Chris Forsberg.
Right now it's defense. It's
defense, right? But yeah, it's defense, and they'll, until the fourth quarter, when they get up and obviously offensive woes, but then they allow teams to score in the fourth. But it's just, I don't think they have like an identity, a leader on this team. Who's that leader? You remember back when KG was here, man. KG walked in the building, you stood at attention. Everybody, was on edge. And so I think it's the same in Phoenix. Chris Paul walks in, hey, he has control of that locker room. And so I think they need a floor general, man, somebody that can, so Jaylen and Jason don't have to worry about getting 8 assists or, making other players better. They can go out there and just do what they do, which is get buckets.
So can Marcus Smart be that guy? Or you think they need someone? I mean, here's what I keep telling people is I don't know necessarily. I do agree with you. I think I used to ask Danny Ainge all the time. I said, who's the perfect person you could put next to the Jays? And he would say Kevin Garnett. And I used to think he meant like a power forward, a guy who like could defend. He meant like, not only could he do that, but he could be the vocal guy who would be like, we need to win. This is how we're going to do it. And so I do think when I look at this roster, I say, you know, where can they find that? The guy who hasn't tasted victory, who can help them come along and nurture and be that Chris Paul type for the Celtics. But invariably we fall to two positions. Is it, you know, can they find a power forward or can they find a point guard? Like, so can Marcus be that guy if they find that leadership type at another position?
Well, the problem is those guys don't grow on trees. You know, those guys just aren't walking around on the street. And can Marcus become that guy? I don't think so. Not in the current way the Celtics are constructed, because, you know, whose team is it? Is it Jason Tatum's team? Is it Jaylen Brown's? Is it, you know, and so whatever guy that is, you know, he's the leader, you know? And so I don't know if Jaylen and Jason, you know, they're all equals and, you know, they all came up together. So it's like hard to say, you know, all right, it's Marcus Smart. Who's the OG veteran that can come in and help this team? And so, and I will say with Marcus Smart, like you watch Chris Paul in the Phoenix Suns, and I know we keep talking about this, but Chris Paul give the ball up, but when the shot clock's winding down, guess who's getting it back? Chris Paul is getting, or Devin Booker. When you watch the Celtics, Smart will give it up, but it stays with Jason or Jaylen. You know what I mean? And so when you ask, can Smart be that guy? I don't think so, because maybe he's not allowed to be that guy, or maybe that's just not who he is. But when the shot clock's winding down, and that's why I think you need somebody that's clutch, that everybody respects and knows once the shot clock's winding down, get him the ball. He's going to make the right read, no matter what it is. Shoot the ball, pass it, whatever, draw the foul. And so, but those guys don't grow on trees, man. And man, remember when Phoenix traded for Chris Paul? We were all like, oh, what a crazy
40
move. Million? What are they doing? The dude's like 50 years old. What are they doing? But he put him back on the map, Chris, and look at him now, best record.
And now he's the poster child for what young teams need to take that step.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you want the veteran type, but I can't bring the Kings guy on the Celtics Talk podcast and not talk trades, not talk which of the point guards can we poach from your overflowing roster of point guards. What do you think the Kings are going to do at the deadline here? And are any of those guys actually available?
I don't think so. I think when it's all said and done, Fox will be, you're talking about a 24-year-old point guard who's not even in his prime yet, averaged 25 points per game last season. You know, and the narrative in Sacramento is, well, can De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton coexist? Same kind of conversations you guys are having here in Boston with JB and JT. But the problem is you got to give it time to develop. This is only their second year together, and Tyrese didn't play a whole lot last season. Fox got injured toward the end of the season. If I'm Monty McNair, the Kings GM, I want to see a little more with these guys, talking about Fox and Halliburton. Some of the other pieces might be expendable. We know he tried to trade Buddy Hield on draft night, so he might be open. But I do think the Kings make a move, though, because like I said, when you're talking about a disappointing team, they have a worse record this year, Chris, than they did last year, which is hard to believe because that roster last year had so many holes in it. And so you got to do something if you're Monty McNair. You're 3 games out of the play-in right now, so there's still time. Like, Portland is ahead of you. Portland's been a mess, even though they beat the Celtics last week. Portland's been a mess without Dame, and then they just get CJ back. And so Monty's going to make a move, but I don't think it's going to be Fox or Halliburton or anybody like that.
That Portland game almost broke Scal. Called it the worst loss of the year, and he'd been trying to be on the pom poms and but that one hurt him. That was the worst loss of the season to him, watching them fall apart in the second half. So sorry we couldn't help you guys there with some Western Conference.
I know, right?
All right. So I mean, we talked a lot about Harrison Barnes last year. I thought that was probably one of the ideal candidates for the Celtics, but Buddy Hield is intriguing to me as well. What do you think it would be the Kings are trying to get in return for those type of players? Are they looking for the youth movement? Do they want younger players that maybe could get more burn than they've seen here in Boston? Are they looking for draft picks? Like what's Monty going after for these? For
that's a good question. Let's think back to the deal he had with the Lakers. Kyle Kuzma, and Montrezl Harrell, Chris Forsberg. That's 2 rotation guys, not 2 young guys. Yeah. That's 2 guys that maybe could start for your team. And so who's that guy that the Celtics can give up? Everybody's saying Neesmith or, you want
like, Dennis Schroeder? You want to have like an all point guard team?
Right, exactly. 6 foot and under team or something like that. No, but I don't know what the Celtics have, man, because obviously it's not Jaylen Brown. It's not Tatum. It's not your boy Time Lord. No way. And so after that, I think the assets aren't as strong for the Celtics. And that's where they're hurt. The deal that, I would have liked last season. I wanted the Kings to go after Marcus Smart last season. Now we don't need him, though. He would have been perfect last season, but now you really don't need Marcus Smart. Yeah. You got a young Marcus Smart 2.0 and Davion Mitchell, who's a strong defender. And so I thought that deal last year, if the Kings could have got Marcus Smart, he's the kind of guy they need, like a dog in the locker room, a guy that's, going to do the intangibles. And so, but I think it's too late for a deal like that because we have so many guards now.
I hate watching the Kings on draft night because y'all pick the guys I want. When Halliburton went, I was begging Danny Ainge to move up that draft board. Then the year the Celtics had the Kings pick, it floats all the way down to 14.
Right.
Even last year, Mitchell, I thought Mitchell was going to be a steal. I think he had a defined NBA skill set. And now watching him, I'm amazed at how good their young players are out there. And I hope they get a chance to figure it out and put it together. Would Buddy fit with the Jays? Because the Celtics need shooting. And I know it'd be a tough move to get that again, 2 rotation. But like, I guess if you called money and said, look, we can give you Romeo, Aaron Neesmith, maybe some younger players that you could actually develop more so than, but again, it comes down to the Kings timeline. If they're trying to accelerate forward, they might not be willing to wait for those guys. But I wonder if it's better for them to cash out while you can get something for Hield.
Yeah. I think they're looking for a little more certainty with whatever they get back. Langford showed some flashes. Neesmith, we've seen him as well. But I think when you look at, Buddy Hield, he'd be a perfect 6-man. He'd be, a guy come off the bench. His numbers have been kind of inconsistent this season, to be honest with you, though. He's had some up and down. And so, but shooting is a premium. But the problem, Chris, is every team needs shooting, right? You're telling me the Kings are going to trade their best shooter. The Kings are in desperate need of more shooting. And so, if I'm Monty McNair, I need some shooters coming back in return. Like I need guys that can make the 3 as well. And so I don't know, man.
Yeah, but I don't get the trade for it because I think I'd say, you need shooting. Peyton Pritchard isn't getting a whole lot of burn here, but you don't need more point guards.
We don't need more point guards.
And so I think Aaron Neesmith could be intriguing because I think with the right amount of time he could develop. But, I think the Celtics would be better off trying to invest in him than to go out and get a Buddy Hield, even though he's more ready right now. All right, I don't want to keep you too long, but I want a couple last things. Like, what do you think from afar when Brad Stevens decided to step down, and now how do you think he's faring in his role as GM of this team?
Oh, dude, I'm still shocked by it all. I'm still shocked because I was talking to somebody the other day about Brad, and we know Brad, nice guy, and I feel like as a GM or president of basketball operations, don't you got to be a little bit of a asshole a little bit, you got to be kind of shrewd. And I know Brad is a competitor and everything like that, but man, I just never envisioned him in that role. I always thought of him as a coach. I thought he loved coaching. I thought that was in his blood and he would be a coach for life. And so how has he fared so far? I'm gonna give him an incomplete, right? But I do think this trade deadline is important, man. It's clear the Celtics need to do something, right? What is that move? Like we said, no Tatum, no Jaylen Brown, no Robert Williams. I would imagine everybody else is, on the market if you're Boston. And so he has to capitalize on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Their window is like really starting right now. Like this next 5 years, sure we had Kyrie and, but these dudes, man, because there's always young players coming up. I mean, think about some of the young guys. John Morant, younger than those guys. Now it's his time, It's like you got so many young players now that are Phoenix isn't going anywhere. Devin Booker's going to be the man. And so I think, when you look at, and Giannis, How old is Giannis Forsberg? What's he?
27, 28, maybe.
27, maybe not even that old, but he's going to be around another. So I think now's the time if you're the Celtics. Like these next 5 years, you have to position yourself not for a 1-year run.
Right.
You got to capitalize on these young guys this next 3 to 5 years. And so if I'm Brad, I'm making a move for that.
That's why it's wild. It's like you look up, and if we're doing this podcast a year from now, like Jaylen Brown's got season and a half left on his deal after that. Like these years go quick, and the clock is ticking for the Celtics to figure this thing out. It is crazy with Brad. As you're well aware, if you're looking at your Celtics links this morning, it's all about what are the moves. But like you said, there's not a lot of obvious opportunity. I do think you'll have to at least entertain the idea of moving Marcus Smart. Just depending on how they feel about him as the long-term point guard, do you get enough return? Like if you're the Celtics, you're probably looking for a first round pick so that you can use that to go get whatever comes next. But you start looking around the league, and Bryn Forbes goes for a second, and it's hard to get teams to convince. But that being said, there's a lot of contenders that could use, as you said, like last year, Marcus Smart would have been perfect for a young Kings team. I looked at Atlanta last year. I thought they could use a Marcus Smart, and although that maybe not, because they did perfectly fine on their own. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a little bit of fringe maneuvering. Dennis Schroeder goes out, opens up some playing time for the younger guys. Maybe you get another big man, so you don't have to lean on Ennis Freedom quite as much. Speaking of big men, how's the Tristan Thompson experience been in Sacramento?
Forsberg, y'all had him in Boston last year. Why are you asking? I think Tristan Thompson is very entertaining. Like
100%.
I like, he's a vocal leader on the team too. Like, he's been in and out of the rotation, but there's not any doubt that he wants to win. You know what I mean? And losing bothers him. And I actually like that. I wish we had more guys that, were pissed off after losses, And so I just think, you got Tristan Thompson, but you don't have any other leaders next to him, and so I don't know, man. It's Tristan Thompson, right?
My favorite walk-offs from last year, like he would just say some crazy stuff,
right?
He was unfiltered, unvarnished, and I enjoyed that about him. But the fit wasn't great for the Celtics, at least with the personnel that they had. So I'm rooting for him. He's got to be on a good team, like a contender team. So I hope he gets a chance with those. All right, let me get you out of here. Before we play the Tom Curran's trade Jaylen Brown immediately rant, what's the one thing you had to do while you're home? I know you said you got the family. Was there a spot you had to get to? Was there a restaurant you had to go to? What's the go-to for Draper?
So I'm a shopaholic now, bro.
Oh, man, because you got to have those threads now that you're on.
So I had to go visit my guys at Ghibli's,
nice,
obviously in Danvers, and my boys at Concepts, the shoe store. Down here on Newberry and Boylston. So those are my two things, man. And then obviously running around and seeing friends and old neighbors and stuff like that. But those were the two things. And I had to get my hair cut at my old barber.
It's like a national game for Draper tonight.
What do you pick out a new suit? I was gonna say,
I knew it. Did you get how long ago did you pick out your outfit for tonight?
Bro. No, it's not that bad. But I did get some fresh shoes for it and everything.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'll be decked out tonight.
I can't wait. Well, enjoy every moment of it. I know it's like, you're thinking about the game and all that, but take a second. They always say, like, once you start, it's going to come naturally. Just embrace the moment.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Say hi to Abby and all your old friends while you're over there.
Exactly. See Scal and Mike. It'll be nice. Nice.
We do miss you. And like I said, it is fun when I turn on the TV and I can still hear Kyle Draper giving me the highlights, and I wish the Kings would give you some more highlights to have, but
maybe tonight. Hopefully it's a game winner for Sacramento tonight.
Celtics have lost too many close games for you to have to be chanting at the end of a game winner. If there's like a De'Aaron Fox game winner, I'm gonna have to click off your network. It's
gonna be awesome, man. I can't wait.
All right, Kyle Draper, have fun tonight. Thank you for jumping on the Celtics Talk Podcast.
All right, my man. See you soon.
All right, my guy Drapes, we miss him around here. He said when I reached out before this, he was like, "Oh, now you want me on the Celtics Talk Podcast?" I said, "Look, you can still be the co-host if you want to check in from the West Coast." And so, we'll keep knocking on his door, if nothing more than to try and prize one of those point guards off the roster. and keep throwing out trade scenarios out there. But a lot of guys around NBC Sports Boston wanted to catch up with Drapes. And before we hopped on to start recording this, the Patriot Talk guys were wrapping up their podcast. So again, we weren't quick enough to get Phil's Marcus Smart slander, but we did have a little on-air, off-air discussion about Jaylen Brown. And if you've tuned into this network at any point, you've probably heard Tom Curran is not a huge fan of Jaylen Brown and believes the Celtics should trade him now while his value is high. I wouldn't say I agree, but I try to just step back and let Drapes and him have their way. So we're going to leave you with that. Before that, go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. If you want to go slide in Tom Curran's mentions and say, we need you back for a full episode of Celtics Talk so we can really get into this Jaylen Brown discussion. He's got no football team anymore, so he's got some time coming up on his hands. We'll catch you guys next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.
He is a disaster on defense. He is a disaster dribbling the ball. He might as well dribble with his forehead half the time.
Refresh my memory. Did Jaylen Brown make an all-star team last night?
The all-star team.
I forget. You say 48 player in the league.
Because people get ballot stuff.
He was an all-star. Come on,
Who cares about the all-star team? We spend more time focusing on the fact that he was the last guy in the door for the all-star team a couple of years ago, and less time noticing that he can't find his own man on defense or dribble.
Welcome to the Celtics Talk Podcast. We're picking this conversation up in progress as Tom Curran makes the case to trade Jaylen Brown yet again.
Before everybody else catches on.
You're welcome to state your case. You just think he's a below average player.
Below average
really
is
sticking around. Is Curran really sticking around?
No, Drapes won't have it. He does. Drapes doesn't need to have it. No, I mean he had you in to talk something else, and I'm an overhang. See, we just finished the Patriots Talk Pod, and I'm still here, so we decided to have a little reunion, and I'm hanging out. I'm ruining the Celtics stuff for people.
So you're just hanging around. You're
not ruining it. I think it's a great discussion.
He's not a below average player by any stretch. He's a disinterested and low energy defender. He is a very gifted.
Hey, and you know, Tom, you could, if we're being honest, you could say that about 90% of the players on that team.
No, not to the extent that the lead dog should be. I mean, Rob Williams and Marcus Smart are engaged. Tatum is generally engaged. He has a hard time with off-ball defense and on-ball defense. I mean, it's insane. Drapes. I mean,
but here's the thing.
I got a phone loaded with clips of the idiocy.
They're not trading.
No, I know they're not. But at some point, you have to come to the conclusion, just as your point was, is he getting better every year? Yeah. But some things are getting better and some things are getting worse. Chris, the notion that he was a plus defender when Drapes was here 2 years ago, you can't subscribe to that right now, can you?
No. And I think the most criminal part is that he has those moments where he loses focus and the guy backdoor cuts him, or the Covington play the other day was infuriating. But
you know what drove me crazy the other day, Chris? There was a point where Montrezl Harrell, Jaylen's standing in the middle of the lane. He had just thrown the ball to the other team. Previously, he had come back and put his hand on the small of Bradley Beal's back for no good reason to create an and one. Then Montrezl Harrell is standing at the block. Jaylen Brown is in the middle of the paint, just standing there with his hands at his side. The second that Montrezl Harrell had an opportunity, he stepped in, put his ass in the midsection of Jaylen Brown, pinned him and scored. Jaylen, what did you think was going to happen? He's the most physical player in the league. Pay attention to who's next to you. You're about to get pinned down. Nothing. Now, another and one. That's the stuff.
Chris, hold on. We don't come on the Patriots Talk Podcast and break down the two deep zone and all this other stuff. How's Curran coming on our podcast here and trying to tell us to trade one of the Celtics' best players?
Well, and here's the thing. I think it's more a reflection of how poor I am at evaluating other sports, because Phil comes in here hot and he's like, hey, wait, they need to trade Marcus Smart yesterday. And then Tom comes on and he's like, hey, they need to move Jaylen Brown. Like, they know more about hoops than maybe the guy hosting the Celtics Talk Podcast. So I just let him roll.
No. But I mean, I'm only 40, almost 50 years deep on watching this team, Drapes. Close.
But I think Tom's frustration is a good way to show you like what's going on in New England right now. There is a lot of frustration with this Celtics team. And we don't always handle it well.
Sorry. This the way to get better, Drapes, to me is either he's going to improve or sell high for more complementary players around what I think is one of the 5 best players in the league, who all he needs to do is play with just a little more edge and say, nobody's as good as me. I'm going to go score 40 tonight. That's all. Drapes did not come on from Sacramento.
No, because I think why not add to those 2 guys? Like the parts surrounding them. And I've said it for 3 years. Forsberg knows you need a point guard that's not trying to get buckets. Kemba was trying to get buckets. Kyrie was trying to get buckets. You need somebody that's going to get you 9-10 assists a night. And they just don't have that kind of point guard that can bring it all together. It's like making gumbo and you don't have the shrimp in there or something. You need somebody where the roux is just not good, So you need somebody to bring it all together. And that's what they're lacking right now. Dennis Schroeder's not that guy. Marcus Smart's not that guy. That's what they need, Tommy.
But to get that, Chris, to get that high level one.
Right. You need to give up something.
And if you give up Jaylen, you can get a Jaylen clone because people could tend to overestimate how good Jaylen is. That's my contention. You can get the same offensive production, better defense, better decision-making and ball handling from a player who is less highly regarded than Jaylen Brown, for instance. That's my contention.
If only we had a guy who covered a team with an abundance of point guards that we could discuss potential trade scenarios with.
I love you guys. I gotta get quick.
All right, Curran. What you got? Break down the draft.
Great to see you.